President Bola Tinubu has urged protesters to cancel their planned demonstration on grounds that the government is actively addressing their concerns. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, conveyed this message after a meeting with the president at the State House. He said President Bola Tinubu takes the grievances of the youth seriously. Idris pointed out the government's recent actions, such as the swift approval of a national minimum wage by the National Assembly. This, he stressed, is proof of the president's commitment to improving lives. The president's appeal comes amid growing public discontent and calls for nationwide protests.
We also discussed the issue of the country generally, and Mr. President has asked me to, again, inform Nigerians that he listens to them, especially the young people that are trying to protest. Mr. President is listening to them. He takes what they say seriously and is working assiduously to ensure that this country is good, not just for today, but also for the future. The issue of the planned protest, Mr. President does not see any need for that. He's asked them to shelve that plan. He's asked them to await government's response to all their pleas. He has listened to them, like I said. And a lot is happening. Only today, the National Assembly has expeditiously passed the new national minimum wage. You can see how the president is working. It was transmitted only yesterday. Today it has been passed. A lot of other interventions that the president has also put in place are also going to be looked at expeditiously in the interest of Nigeria. So there's no need for strike. The young people out there should listen to the president and allow the president more time to see to the realization of all the goodies he has for them.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined in the studio by the lawyer, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, Prince Adewole Adebayo. He was the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the 2023 presidential elections. Great to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
So you've heard about the planned nationwide protest, and barring any unforeseen circumstance, it will happen soon. Give us your perspective about that plan.
Well, basically, my attitude is, in a democracy, you have a right to express yourself, and you have a right to express displeasure. You have a right to voice out your disagreement with government policy, and you have a right to point out anything that you think is unlawful or unconstitutional. So that freedom of expression, coupled with freedom of association, so the right is there. However, it's not every right that you have that you exercise. It's not every right that you have exercise or will be effective. My perspective is you can protest, no problem about that. But the quagmire we find ourselves goes beyond just protesting. The quagmire we find ourselves in this country is the direction that the political class is taking Nigerians to.
Right.
And if you don't change that direction, we'll be taking turn to protest. Remember, a few years ago, the person who was protesting was President Tinubu himself.
Right. So you say that not every right that you have will be effective. Does that include the right to protest? Expatiate.
Where you have an opportunity to be in government and change the direction of your country, if you specialize in letting the wrong people take power all the time, and you come after that to protest against them, I think it's not the most effective way to go about it. I think that the direction the Nigerian political elite, the ruling parties, the direction they are taking the country now, what is happening, there are natural consequences of the policies. So it's not a personal decision of one or two persons. It's a general direction. And we contested these issues in the last election. We saw the direction that the policies that they have taken, removal of subsidy, the way they've done it, the floating of the naira, so many other disinvestment in social services and all of that, the inability to manage inflation and money supply and all this. These are the natural consequences. Whether you are in Nigeria, you are in Kenya, Uganda, USA, wherever you are, once you allow this kind of ideological errors to be dominant in your policy space, you will get the same consequence.
So let me get you right.
And the protest will not help you.
Right. Let me get you right. You say if we allow the wrong people in government. So in many instances or cases in Nigeria, is it the people allowing the wrong people, or is it a problem of poor elections, or poor elections or undemocratic systems that some politicians use to force themselves on the people?
It's a combination of all of the above. First of all, before you even do the elections, you start to get worried when you see the dominant issues. Because elections, in a society that is that matures its democracy, you don't have an election in 1 year, and within 1 year you start to protest against that government. So there's an error somewhere, because these issues that are biting us now, they were the issues on the Bunsen burner in the last election. So what is happening is a combination of, one, poor ideological orientation in our political party organization and in our choice of leadership, the ability to come to power without having the popular support. Whether you come by way of election rigging, manipulation, and all of that is also part of it.
So you are implying that there were errors in the 2023 elections?
Of course, I said that on many occasions. There are errors there, and there were also errors before the election when we were raising alarm as to the dangerous tendencies of the dominant political parties. The things they were saying they were going to do in a well-articulated society. This kind of protest we're having now should have been had against them at that time. If anybody has come and said, I'm going to remove subsidy, I'm going to float the currency, and all these other things that they are doing now, that was the time to rally around and say, you will never taste that power.
Right.
And that was not what majority did.
I'm thinking of how to put this, because he said that's not what majority did. So that majority, do they understand that this is what they need to do, or do they understand their power, in your view?
I think there was a failure of communication and orientation and conscientization of the people, because people were following politicians like celebrities, and politicians were not speaking to the needs of the people. Majority of Nigerians don't have money. They don't have employment, they don't have housing, they don't have any saved income anywhere, and they depend on social services and the value of the currency to be stable. And when you had dangerous proposals brought by APC, who now are in government at the federal level, brought by PDP, brought by Labour and any of those people, saying they were going to liberalize the economy, they were going to float the currency, they were going to remove subsidy on day one. With those policies, we were telling people, these policies will put you on high jump, and you will be in serious trouble. And these policies, whoever does them, you have the same result. Even President Tinubu himself, 2014 thereabout, he was on the street. It's very interesting that he's saying to people, don't go on the street now. But he was on the street with former President Buhari, with so many other people. And at that time, I was telling people, don't just listen to them, because they too have the same policy. The problem we are facing is not about personality. The problem we are facing is about policy. Right. And this policy makes don't work well for our economy. Let's
look at the stance of the government. So the president's spokesperson, Mr. Bayo Onanoga, has called people who have said this government needs to change. He said this is high treason. What's your view on a movement that is seeking better government, or better governance, it seems?
Well, while I respect everybody, I think it's a little beneath dignity to respond to a presidential spokesperson. He's not even in government. So if I want to speak, I will speak to what President Tinubu himself says, or a minister of government, like Minister of Information, who has responsibility to speak for the government.
But he speaks on behalf of the government.
I don't know how disciplined they are in that place. It's not my presidency. I didn't win the election, but I don't think that's how to run a presidency. But I can't comment on somebody who is of no rank. With due respect, I respect him personally, but he's speaking above his rank. He's not the Attorney General. He's not a lawyer. He doesn't know what is treason. So he's just speaking. It will be indignity at the highest level for me, having run for the highest office in this land, come here now and be speaking about one spokesperson. I mean, maybe my spokesperson can speak about him. But in reality, I'm focusing more on what the president has to do, because he's the one we elected. And I'm still focusing more on what the National Assembly has to do, because they are appropriating our money. I'm focusing more on what a minister who has gone through screening at the National Assembly, he's talking about, because that one is speaking for the government. So what is clear is that the government needs to understand that the policies that they have put in place are the reasons why people are in serious pain. And if people are expressing this pain, it's an opportunity for the government to try to change course. And in some of the areas, they've tried to change course quietly, but they need to admit. And one of the problems they are facing is that they've signed up to this. The Nigerian people need to know that the Nigerian political elite, by going to Chatham House, going to Washington, going to all these places, they sign up to a charter of policies. And these policies are not good for our economy. That is not how China developed. That's not how India developed. That's not how Brazil developed. That's not how Turkey developed. So they can't develop the country. So the solution is to actually make sure they don't come to power anymore.
So you are saying that they are pseudo leaders. They don't even have the power to exercise because they are carrying out the mandate of people outside the shores of their country.
Yes, and even mandate that they do not understand clearly. There's a serious case. If you study this government, it's a serious case of economic illiteracy. So they're actually throwing away opportunities. They are fixing things that are not faulty, and they are actually leaving fundamental things.
Give me one example, one good example.
First, the first duty they owe is the duty to stabilize their currency. And it's not about the value of the currency, whether you value it up or you devalue it down. The case is that you must have a stable currency that can be a store of value. They haven't achieved that. You must be able to have fiscal discipline inside the government, which means you collect every revenue you need to collect, and you are very thrifty in the management of the revenue the expenditure that you make. They are failing that. You have to do serious monetary management to see that money supply is regulated in a manner in which you can achieve full employment. They haven't managed to do that. You need to do social investments, which means that you need to make sure that you put more people to work. So when you listen to them, they talk about so many things they've done. When you listen to the Minister of Information, he's not talking statistics. He's not giving you a reality. He's just preaching to you that the president loves you, which we are not in doubt. But the question is, he's not saying we've created 1 million more jobs since we came in. It's a year now. In our last year's budget, we projected 750,000 jobs, and we have met the standard. He's not saying any of that. They need to govern. And the problem they have is that they need to understand the economy of Nigeria and the policies that they are implementing. Even though those are the policies they advertised, these policies are not good. And if they don't change them, there's no direction you can change in this country, and no amount of protest can change anything. You must see that you change direction, because where we are going is not good for our economy long term.
You know, Mr. Onanuga also, accused the Labour Party presidential candidate last year of being the mastermind behind this. I think everything is connected somehow to Labour Party. What are your views on that?
I don't know, I'm not an investigator, but I know that when people are hungry, they don't need the opinion of any party leader to tell them that they're hungry. So when your house rent has gone up, I don't think you need to listen to anybody to tell your house rent has gone up. The issue is that I think many of them still have animosity from last year's election. They don't know the election is over. We have one country to govern now. Maybe we have to contest in future, but that future is still ahead. So we pray that all of us are alive to see the future. So people should forget the animosity of last year's election and actually listen to issues. So even if somebody is your opponent, if they have a good point, you have to take that point. You have to realize that the republic belongs to all of us. And President Tinubu is in power. He needs to be a little more tolerant about opposition, because he is the opposition general of Nigeria. He is the person who has spent many years stoking trouble in the opposition over time. These protests that people are doing now, he did his own, some flamboyant ways against the same policies which he's implementing now.
Right.
Even at that time, I was telling people, just don't follow them. Okay. These people are just gaming you. But the key issue is that 2023 election and all the fallout is not the issue now. The issue now is that there are real statistics on the street, living statistics of people sliding into poverty, of unemployment rising, of people's purchasing power disappearing, of industries shutting down, of infrastructure being too slow in delivery. These are issues that no enemy no opponent needs to talk about before people get to know about them.
You listened to the clip on the Minister of Information and National Orientation, and the president was essentially pleading with the youth not to go onto the streets. What's your reading of the situation? Do you think that's enough to stop people from protesting?
I hope that the president understands that beyond just speaking, he needs to also show some results and needs to do some dialogue. For me, generally, I know where the root cause of the problem is, and I've seen many countries go on strike. Right now, they are doing similar thing in Uganda. They finished in Kenya. None of them tends to bring anything in return. The one they did against Jonathan last time didn't bring anything in return. But it's good for politicians. If your opponent is in trouble, you take advantage of that trouble.
Why is that so? Why doesn't it yield any meaningful result, in your view? Because
you have to change the policies. When you go and what are you going to get? When the protesters against Jonathan, what did you get? You got sure P. You got all this palliative. So when you come out now and you protest, and hopefully people don't die, you don't break bones, you don't burn buildings and all of that, and then you slow down your economy, at the end of the day, you get more palliatives.
So the problem is the party and their understanding of economics and what should be done.
Yes, because you need to grow your economy, you need to run a government properly. And I can tell you, President Tinubu's presidency is 99% politics, 1% governance. And that's not enough. So 99% politics. So they got the politics A1, the governance maybe F9 or not showing up. So they need to do more work on that.
So you think all the measures they've been taking so far, it doesn't count for anything?
No, with due respect, they don't count because they are facing the wrong direction. So if you are in Abuja and you are supposed to pick up something in Kano, if you are flying to Lagos, you are wasting your time, you are flying the wrong direction. The economy plan that they have is going the wrong direction. And you will see it because the tension that is going to be coming will start with those who are earning wages, then it goes to the middle classes, then it goes to small businesses. Very soon you will see your so-called biggest tycoons, the richest people in the world, richest people in Africa, start feeling it too. You are going to break down the economy. What we need to do is very basic, which is that we need to make social investment. And that's why I keep saying, go to chapter 2 of the Constitution. Everything you need to do on the economy is there. And if you are protesting, and that's the point I'm making, if you are protesting or organizing to bring about a government that is going to implement these good policies, that is worth doing. But if you are just protesting to get more palliative, then you are wasting your time. In Kenya now you can see Ruto is back, he's bringing back his old ministers all over again. The whole thing is all over the place. People are just picking up burnt buildings, dead bodies and all of that. That is not how to do it. And in a country like Nigeria, where we have very viable opposition, we should at least find a way to kick out the status quo and try fresh people with fresh ideas.
So to kicking out the status quo, let's look at some of the demands of the protesters. You know, there are a couple of things. There's some 14. This is by Omoyele Showore. He posted this on his handle. Scrap the 1999 Constitution, toss the Senate, keep the House, invest heavily in education, give Nigerian students grants, not loans, rationalize publicly owned enterprises sold to government officials, reinstate a corruption-free subsidy regime, and a host of things. Do you think these demands are fair or are they unreasonable?
That's a shopping list of revolutionaries.
Shopping list? Okay.
Yeah, many of them are not things that the president can do by himself.
Right.
So I think when there is a protest, people will come up with all their own perspectives. But clearly, if you narrow the protesters are not the same people. So it's not as if they're sitting in one place planning it. The different people with different agenda. Some have been thinking of constitutional amendment. National Assembly is there. You can go and address that. Those who are talking of economic intervention, those are the people I'm paying a little more attention to, where, for example, people are really practically starving. People can't farm anymore because of insecurity, and the food prices are rising. And I can tell you, I'm not saying this from secondhand, in every sector, I'm into agriculture, I'm into animal husbandry, I'm into all of this, I see how factor costs are rising. So if the president can address those ones, fine. But there are other issues which have been the same issues we're talking about in the country forever. If you want to raise those issues, maybe in the next election, you can use them to campaign. People believe in them. For example, I believe in the 1999 Constitution. I know it can be improved upon. There are people who don't believe in it. They think it's not autonomous enough. Those issues, Tinubu can't do anything about it.
So you do not think that this planned protest, you do not think that it will have any impact on the political landscape? So what is your direct message to Nigerians, to the young people that are agitated?
My direction and my advice is as follows. Take over power. Don't protest when the wrong people have power. And you have opportunities.
How do you take over power when it has been captured?
No, power cannot be captured in a democracy where the majority don't agree.
Right.
What it is that in 2023, the youth were like fans, treating politicians as celebrities and following people without looking at the ideology. What I'm saying now is that the crisis on the ground, you can use it to protest. Fine, you have your 1 week of protest, 1 month, but you can also use it to organize Nigerian people to say, you can see now that all sides of the elite, those who were there before, those who protested against those who were there before, who are now there, all of them, none of them has your interests at heart. So you need to organize yourself and organize political parties that are going to take power. So you're not going to protest. For example, now you protest in August against Tinubu, and in September, October, you go and elect the same party in Edo State, Ondo State, and all of those places. I don't see seriousness in all of that. I think that what we need to do is what was done by the left in Brazil, what's been done in other places. You look at the evidence that these people don't care about you and they don't even know what they are doing in governance. You use it to organize yourself into political movements, and you raise people from councillor level to chairman level. But and that works, the long-term work. They
tried the last time, the movement, or do you think it was a bit scattered?
No, not last time. It was just the same politics of the elite. The youth follow the same neoliberal people. The people who got the majority of the votes, forget about who won. The people who got majority of the votes were saying the same thing that Tinubu is doing now. They were saying they're going to remove subsidy, they're going to float the currency.
Textbook understanding of economics.
Yes, which is a poor understanding, and I've interacted with IMF and World Bank people. The smartest people don't work there. And these people are not expecting you, hook, line, and sinker, to take what they are saying. And in their own countries, Biden is not following IMF. Nobody is following IMF. Rishi Sunak, who tried to play monkey game with it, he was thrown out immediately. So everybody is making sure that in their country, they do social investment, they employ people. You will know that a government is good when they start employing people.
Right.
That's when you know.
As an avid observer of events, as a politician, you've run for presidency. What would you do and your party do differently in this circumstance?
Everything, right from the Eagle Square, everything they've done, we do opposite. First, we said to the people that when they said to you that they are going to remove subsidy, what they are saying is that they want to collect more money from you. They are going to tax you, because removal of subsidy is petroleum tax through the back door. Two, the subsidy will never go away, because as long as you continue to import, the subsidy will not go away. Thirdly, if you don't make social investment to take people away, do you know why people use vehicles in Nigeria? People use vehicles out of poverty. Because many people who have no business using vehicles are forced to use vehicles because there's no transport infrastructure.
Okay, the government will tell you they have a Ministry of Poverty Alleviation and all of that.
They are alleviating the poverty of politicians. That's why you see them having a romance with EFCC every 3 months. Those places are created for them to pay their campaign staff and all of that. What I'm saying generally is that when the government wants to alleviate poverty, every ministry, including that of the president, is for poverty alleviation. What is poverty? Poverty is when you have no access to basic needs. And if you do housing, you do education, you do healthcare, you make food affordable, you have already killed poverty. You don't need to create a ministry for that.
In less than 10 seconds, they say talk is cheap.
Yes.
You know, that's what people will tell you.
Yes.
How many offices have you run? You know, where have you run to show that you can actually translate all this talk into something tangible? Those
who have run every office now, they are running into hunger. So that's number one. So the meaning running offices means nothing. Secondly, if you look at what I've done every sector that I'm making about, I'm a player in all those sectors and I have records to show for it. But governance and administration and management is about having a focus. The problem facing our Nigerian elite is that The focus of the elite is just consumption. The focus of the elite is about self-perpetuation. It's not as if they have any goal set in mind. And the goals contained in our Constitution, they have a gross contempt for that chapter 2 of the Constitution, because that's where the hard work lies.
Adewole Adebayo, thank you so much for coming on Prime Time.
Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.